Yeah. It's one of my favorite examples when I go out and speak to executives. It's like, if you interview somebody today, you're not asking them, do you know how to use Google or do you know how to write an email? You see, you just assume people know how to do that. And so I think that's you'll see the same thing with AI. And I also don't buy the young people will no longer have a job or like it's getting really challenging. I actually have the opposite view. I understand where the sentiment comes from, and I think there are some really good marketing people at these AI companies to keep the hype. But that said, I do also think there is true value in that, and I say that based on my own experiences with people are buying into the hype, but they're still not sure how to use this thing. Like, it's in a way, it's a little bit of technology looking for a solution. And so we get a lot of demand of like, okay, can you now? We don't want you to explain people what an LLM is. We want you to explain how they can use it. Like, how do they write good prompts so that it becomes a daily habit? How can they make AI workflows so that they start to realize, how can I automate part of my job? And so there's a big push towards that.
Is AI just a hype? What makes the difference between companies that are successful with AI versus companies that are not? Will AI replace work in specialized roles, or will it enhance it and make existing workers just more powerful? Welcome to another Employee Experience Tips podcast from the Munich Podcast studio. Employee Experience Tips podcasts are about HR tech, employee experience, shared services, and other interesting topics around HR at the workplace. Today's episode is an addition to our Startup and AI series we are running. I invited a former guest back to talk about AI in practice because of the special insights he has in companies' AI usage and success. I had the pleasure to talk again to one of my early guests to our podcast, Martijn from Datacamp. Datacamp is a company that helps companies and employees acquire critical skills around data and AI. What is he seeing in his work? What are his clients doing? And what are the outcomes when it comes to AI? And where is this all leading towards? This and much more we were diving deep in. Listen for yourself, Martijn Theuwissen from Datacamp. Martijn, hi, I'm so happy to have you on again. After, I don't know, we'd spoken like a year ago or so. How are you?
I'm doing well, actually, really well. Thanks for asking, and glad to be back.
It's
it was
great to
a
have
lot
you.
of fun last time, so hoping it's going to be the same today.
I'm pretty sure it is. And we had a lot of listeners last time, and then it was a really great episode.
Okay.
I'll link it in the show notes for everyone again. I think it's still very current on what we have talked about. But I'm also very excited to have you today on again to talk a bit about, democratization of data and AI skills again. But before we go there, Martijn, I'm pretty sure there are a few listeners that don't know you and that don't listen or have not listened to our first conversation. So for those, who is Martijn Theuwissen? What is your background? What do you do today?
Sure. So I'm Martin, spelled with an IJN at the end, which gives it a little bit away that it's a Dutch name. And I am from Belgium, the Flemish part, where they speak Dutch. That's where I grew up. That's where I live today. And I co-founded around 12, 13 years ago a company that's called Datacamp, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about later on. At university, I studied commercial engineering. I tend to joke that after that, I held one real job. So I worked at Coca-Cola, so the FMCG company. And right after that, after doing that for a little bit over a year, I started together with my co-founders Datacamp. And at
Very
Datacamp,
nice.
I held a couple of different roles, but today I'm mainly active on everything that has to do with the B2B side, both future clients as well as existing clients. and both commercial as well as solutions that we offer them.
Wow, fantastic. That's amazing. And you've already started to talk about Datacamp.
Mhm.
I totally forgot that it's already 12, 13 years. That's amazing. It's far from being a startup by now, but tell us a bit more about Datacamp. What does Datacamp stand for? Where is it coming from? What does it do
Sure.
today?
Sure. So what Datacamp is we're basically an online learning platform, and we focus ourselves on helping people to upskill themselves in everything that has to do with data and AI. Now, where the idea came from and like how it all came to be. So 12, 13 years ago, you had something called MOOCs, Massive Open Online Courses. It
Yeah,
was, I think,
yeah.
even back then the year of the MOOC or something like that. Um, and you had companies like Coursera, Udemy, EDX coming up. And what they basically did was like they filmed the classroom and they put that online, and then people could follow along, which is a great initiative. Now, um, the thing is that watching hours and hours of videos of somebody standing in front of a board and explaining like how XYZ works is now not the most engaging way to
Not
interact
really.
with content. No, or to even learn something. Like if you think about,
Mm.
okay, how do you learn something yourself? Well, often by doing it, you
Yeah,
acquire the skills much better,
yeah.
you retain them much better. And so what we realized 12, 13 years ago is that back then it was mainly data. The AI got added a couple of years ago. We realized that, well, you can actually flip it around and use technology to put the student at the center of attention rather than the
Mm.
instructor. And you can use technology to build interactive, fun interfaces so that
Yeah.
people are learning by doing when they build their data and AI skills. And that was what is a bit the core idea
Yeah.
that we worked on in the past 12 to 13 years. And then we started initially focusing very much on individuals, so what they call the B2C market. And
B2C.
then
Mhm,
4 or 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years in, almost 8 years ago, we focused a lot more on the B2B side of
mhm.
things as well. And that's actually the larger part of our business today. So
Mm.
helping organizations, small and big, to upskill folks in data and AI.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, if I just think about the other platforms that you were also mentioning, there's no one really who is who is following in those footsteps, right? There's no one that is truly putting the learner at the heart. I mean, some are saying that,
Mhm.
but I think when I think about how you are going about this versus others, there is definitely still one of the key items that make you stand out in the market, right?
Yeah, correct. That's so we really want to see ourselves as a product company,
Hmm.
developing product. And I think we are, for example, much closer to how a Duolingo would position itself than
Mm.
how like a Coursera or a Udemy would position itself, because like we're um, from an ideological point of view, much more aligned with the way that they approach
Yeah.
teaching people or educating people on languages. Like that's how we want to do it for data and AI.
Yeah, and I was just smiling because it was probably it's almost a year ago. I think it was in January. My son came to me. Right, he is 9 years old now, and
Hmm.
he said like, "Hey, Dad, um, I want to have this new game here on the iPad." I was like, "Okay, let me have a look." And he was pointing and said like, "Can I have that game?" I was like, "Duolingo? Sure, you can have it."
Sure, we can have it. That's great, actually.
And he loves to play it.
Yeah.
And
And is
now
it the
now a year.
languages or the chess
Yeah.
game? Because they did
No,
a
it's
chess
it's
game.
the it's the languages. It's the
Okay,
languages. And
nice.
now a year, well, almost a year in English, he is almost as good as his 3 years older sister.
Okay,
It's
that's
amazing
nice.
because this engagement, this
Hmm.
focus on gamification and the individual, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed, because and I think this is one of those obvious statements, but
Yeah.
spaced repetition, like learning every day, is so much more
Yeah.
effective than like doing a block of a week and
Bulk
then
learning.
6 or 7 weeks nothing. And what these apps do really well is make sure that you put in that daily effort. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of criticism on it as well, but I think sometimes they throw away the baby with the bathwater there, because you have like the fact that they manage people, children, to put in that daily habit is
Yeah.
like enormously powerful.
I agree. I agree. And honestly, I get that, this kind of behavior isn't the best when it is like a pure like a game or social media. But here you truly learn something.
Hmm.
So I disagree. It's really a good thing. And so is data.
Thank you.
Um we we we've talked about data, but it's not only data, right? It's also AI. However, AI came only a bit later, right? When you started 12, 13 years ago,
Hmm.
there wasn't a big conversation around AI. How did you land on the AI piece? How did you get there?
Yeah. So it- for that, it's probably best to go back to the beginning of Datacamp and describe a little bit like, okay, how did we came where we came
Yeah.
today, and that's going to explain like how we came to AI. So when we started Datacamp, we actually focused on a very specific niche programming language within the data space, which
Hmm.
is called R. Now we got traction there, and then what we saw was like, okay, more and more people are using Python for their data science
Yeah.
task, and so we added Python as well. But we were still very much focused on like the data scientist, the data
Hmm.
analyst who is working with data on a day-to-day basis, like which is
Yeah.
where it's basically their core role or job description.
Hmm.
Um, and from there we went a little bit further. We went to we added SQL, and we started to think about data literacy, AI literacy, and the thing is like all these fields are tangent to each other. Like you basically grow the audience the
Yeah.
entire time,
Yeah.
and you are at some point like you're no longer attracting the data scientist who's working with data on the data, but you're also attracting the functional analyst, the person in the marketing
Yeah.
department, like who all of a sudden got a lot of access to data, and so um, AI is then basically this next adjacent field. So because well, AI depends a lot on data. I think everyone knows like
Yes.
what is ChatGPT? Like it's trained on a bunch of data from the
Yeah.
internet, and then you
Yeah.
ask questions and you get feedback or you get answers back.
Yeah.
Um, so that jump was actually not that big of a jump because the users that we had, the learners that we had, like they already had a demand for that, like they
Yeah.
associated with these types of technologies, and that's how we grew into it. um, AI is definitely the one that is like most noteworthy, but we've done this in other fields or areas as well. So for example, cloud is another example.
Yeah.
So you have the Azures, the AWSs, the
Yeah.
Google Clouds in the world. You can
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
courses on Datacamp on those technologies as well. But they also always have that little data twist to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so that's how it came to be.
Interesting. Excellent. So, Martin, let's dive right into now. And in our last conversation, we talked earlier about data and the day, of course. But it was, if you ask me, I mean, we can debate this, but I think it was still like the early days, especially
Mm-hmm.
for AI. Now, a year later, what has changed from your perspective, if anything? Did you
Yep.
see any changes in what Datacamp is offering on AI or what clients are asking from you?
Yep. So we definitely see changes, and
Yeah.
I can also say very confident, like the hype did not die down. Like organizations are really looking for ways to upskill their
Mm.
people in AI and using the tools. And so, going to your question, like, okay, what changed? I think that the biggest thing that changed is that while a year and a year and a half ago we were talking very much about AI literacy trainings, like okay,
Yeah.
what is AI? how does Gen AI differ from machine learning? What is this? What is an LLM? How
Yeah.
should I like interpret it? Like, how can I
The
use it?
foundations.
Yes, the very like the very foundation. It's like explaining somebody like, hey, this is this is an internet browser, or
Yeah.
this is Word. Um, what you yeah, but what you see today is that I think now people are really looking for, okay, what can I do with this? And so we
True.
see a lot more demand around, oh, can you actually give us courses around prompt engineering? How do we write really good prompts? Can you give us
And
courses around how to make our own AI agents, even simple like AI workflows? Like, how do we do that? So
wow.
there's a lot more demand for hands-on, and I think in part this is because people are buying into the hype, but they're still not sure how to use this thing. Like, it's in a way,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
little bit
yeah,
of
yeah.
technology looking for a solution.
Yeah.
Um, and so so we get a lot of demand of like, okay, can you now? We don't want you to explain people what an LLM is. We want you to explain how they can use it. Like, how do
Use
they
it.
write good prompts so that it becomes this daily habit? How can they make AI workflows so that they start to realize, how can I automate part of my job?
Yeah.
So there's a big
Interesting.
push towards that.
Interesting. That leads to my next question, Martin. When when I think about the hype has never really died on AI,
Mm-hmm.
at least not yet. It continues to be really still growing, if you ask me. And there are a lot of heavy investments that are currently happening on AI, and I'm not sure if this has paid out or if we are going into a bubble. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the big players, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, they increase the revenue and profit, absolutely.
Yeah.
But how do you see this with what companies are coming towards you? Do you have a feeling that this is truly something that stays and that will be able to deliver value back to the companies with
Yeah.
the training that you are delivering to them? Or is
Mm-hmm.
this a hype bubble that we are in?
Yeah. So so let me start by saying that I understand where the sentiment comes from, and I
Yeah.
think there are some really good marketing people at these AI companies to keep the hype. Um, but that said, I do also think there is true value in that, and I say that based on my own experiences with
Yeah.
my my own teams,
Yeah.
what I see them doing. So, for example, in the past year, our support is shifted almost fully towards being managed by AI agents.
Wow.
And these AI
Amazing.
agents do as good, if not even a better job than the humans. Um,
Wow.
I see similar things on our commercial teams. So in my day to day, I see actual applications where AI is extremely useful. I see it in my own workflow, and I see it
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
workflows of departments and teams. So I, I, it's not all hype, but we are all together trying to figure out like where is the most value, and how can
Yeah.
we use it, and how can we help people to achieve that. Um, so um, so I do think there's a bit of nervousness as
Mhm,
far
mhm.
as I see with organizations. Like, okay, how do we do this now? I think it's in part because, well, this is from an organizational perspective a massive change, like the that you
Yeah.
need to go through. Like, um, people forget, but at some point everyone got access to email, and they needed to start sending emails. And I I know I was young enough to realize when that got introduced, but I'm not old enough to be been in the workforce already at that point. But I can just imagine that, like, when that happened, that was also a big shift. Like, all of a sudden people say like, hey, you have this weird thing with an ad in it, and you can use it to send message to your colleague, and your colleague can use it to send message back, and you have this little interface, and you really need to start looking like
Yeah.
every day or every hour on what it is. And like, we're not going to use the internal post anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I cannot imagine that that was like a smooth transition, and I can also imagine a lot of people questioning like, hey, why is this useful? And they're even like, they're like, like paradoxes around it, like, hey, did this really help, and blah blah blah. But the point is, like, I think we're going through such a massive transition at the moment, and it's a little bit messy now. But
Hmm.
if I look at the own facts and data that I have, like, I do see value creation. I
Yeah,
do
yeah.
see productivity from it.
Amazing. Do you measure somehow the success of your courses for your clients, or do they do this internally, or do you have any KPIs you could share to say, like, what we see that the training on AI actually pays out?
Yeah, sure. So there are a couple of different ways that we and our clients look at the return on investment, and it
Yeah,
depends a little bit on the type of client. Um, some clients purely look at the consumption. Like, okay, are people taking the courses? And I think that's also a very defensible position, because in a way you learn someone a skill, you give them
yeah,
access to technology, and it's a little bit
yeah.
up to them, like, okay, how they use that skill, what they can do with that. Um, there are others who look very much at outcomes. So, for
Mhm.
example, like, we have certifications at the end. So if you think of consultancy clients, for them, that's really important, because it basically allows them to say, like, hey, our people are equipped with these skills, and they
Mhm.
can adjust their fees based on that, or they can
Yeah,
real deals based on
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Um, and then you have clients who look at outcomes, and the outcome measurement is often done either anecdotally through stories, like the story I told you about, like support, like our support is
Hmm.
now
Hmm.
basically
Yeah.
almost fully done
AI.
by
Yeah.
AI agents. Um, or they do it through surveys that measure, for example, things like time savings. So
Yeah.
it's really depends on the category, and I don't think there's any right or wrong there.
Hmm.
But it
Hmm.
depends on the type of client, company culture that they have internally, like how they look at the ROI of their investments. But they all do look at ROI in some way.
Of course. I mean, today even more than ever, because the economy is not the best, so every investment needs to have an ROI. There's nothing happening anymore for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Martin, let me be a bit provocative here.
Sure.
You you already shared that you are employing AI in your workflows.
Mm-hmm.
And I see emerging on the market also learning tools that basically, with the help of AI, design and configure and put out ready-made, tailor-made end-to-end training courses.
Yeah.
How do you? I mean, this is kind of your market as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see in I don't know, in 2-3 years, AI is fast. Do you see still the way that you operate is a an additional value at the market, or do you see this trend towards no longer off the shelf but personalized, in the moment, tailor-made AI trainings delivered is taking over the market?
Yeah. So so I think AI will greatly help with everything that has to do with personalization, tailorization of the materials that you will have in front of you. And I
Yeah.
think that will be actually great for learning outcomes, because if um, if you're in marketing and you need to take a data science course, well, it's much more interesting to look at the data set that comes out of the field of marketing than a data set that comes out of
Yeah.
pharma, to say something. And
Yeah.
today, like, that type of personalization is not possible, and AI is allowing us to do that. And, like, within Datacamp, we are actually doing that even up until the role level. Um,
Wow.
on the I'm going to put in I want to learn about X, and, like, automatically a course will roll out.
Yeah.
I'm more skeptical on that part,
Uh-huh.
because one we create courses through AI ourselves, and I actually have a look at, like, okay, how the backend looks to do that, and it's a
Yeah.
lot more complex in engineering than you do. And um, again, going back also, like, to maybe do it with an analogy, like, okay, if I look at support,
Yeah.
managing the AI agents that do the support is a full-time job.
Mm.
Because you constantly need to tweak it, fine tune it.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
different job, but it's like, and when you ask for a course or do a course, it's the same thing. Like underneath to make sure that you get that course that you want, that get
Mhm.
personalized to you. Like there's a whole system behind it that constantly needs to be tweaked. And so I don't really believe in the okay, I'm going to teach me this subject and like magically like a full course will roll out of that. Um it's a little bit like you can do that today as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you go to Google and you
Mhm.
type in like teach me XYZ and you
Yeah.
click on the first link and you're gonna have a blog post and that blog post is gonna teach you XYZ.
Mhm.
Um, that's been possible for 15 years.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yet I don't think there's ever been a better time for everything that has to do with ad tech and upskilling people than there is today. So it it did not displace it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not that worried about that part.
So basically, you're saying the job is still needed, but it will look a bit different because you will have very different tools and possibilities with those new tools than yesterday when it comes to personalization, when it comes to targeting, when it comes to the quality of the material that you can prepare for those courses.
Yes, indeed. And I think you're gonna need to, and I think there's an underestimation of how much work it takes to
Yeah.
actually uh, massage the AI so that like good content comes out of it.
Yeah.
There's a reason that one of the trending words this year is AI slop.
Yes, it
So
is actually the Economist's word of the year, slop.
okay, I did not know that. Yes, so
Yes.
but that illustrates a little bit the point. Like, and it's like, well, yes, you can create everything you want, and well,
Yeah. Yeah.
you won't know if it's going to be true, and it can be very verbose and on and. So I don't think we live in a world where there's a shortage of content. I do think we live in a world where there's a shortage of really good quality content and knowing where that lives. And there's
Yeah.
a big role to be played by companies like ours there.
Yeah, it's basically the curation, right? You could argue, I'm just coming to that, you could argue it's a bit going back to the beginning of the internet where you had,
Mhm.
the Yahoos that were basically manually curating what is out there, what
Yeah.
makes sense, right? Versus now when you go to Google, you get all the crap and particularly all the sponsored crap. And then you get the SEO crap. And then
Mhm.
somewhere on page 3 or 4, you finally get the good quality content.
Mhm.
And what you can bring is to say like, you know what? You dive into Datacamp and it's from the beginning the curated content and you can worry free just start your journey.
Yeah, indeed. Because if lack of content would have been the issue, then there would not be an industry like the one that I'm active in. Because then everyone would be on YouTube.
Yes, that's true. And I mean, still everyone is on YouTube, but the
That's
question is
fair.
how much
Yes.
they learn.
Yes. Because you need to see through the content.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Martin, let me pivot to a bit of a different topic where I would like to get your opinion from what you are seeing, what your experience. There's another aspect of AI, right? We have this learning about AI and being able to utilize AI in your job, whatever that is, maybe marketing, maybe sales, maybe whatever. But I'm coming from the HR function, and
Mhm.
there's there's a bit of a different approach there. I think that is needed, and I would like to get your view on if you see that. You know, you are probably working with many HR departments, and how do you see from your clients the readiness of those departments to support AI efforts within their companies? So not
Mhm.
necessarily they themselves using AI in their work, but as you said earlier, AI is changing the way organizations need to work, the way
Mhm.
individuals need to work, and HR needs to be ready to to support that.
Yep.
How do you see that?
Yeah. So the let me talk about the most successful clients we
Yeah.
see and like how they've set it up. Like um the and it's a very straightforward answer, but the most successful HR departments on this particular question that we see is actually the ones that have a dedicated HR business partner or whatever that has an explicit focus on digital upskilling, AI upskilling, and it's in their title. It's like it's
Yeah.
essentially like, okay, your
Interesting.
role is to make this company AI
Ready.
first,
Wow.
and make sure that everyone, we bought a bunch of Copilot licenses. Your job is to make sure that everyone knows how to use this Copilot licenses.
Yeah.
But we're going to give you the means to do that. We're going to give you access to our data department so that
Yeah.
they and they are asked to help you with achieving that. We're going to give you the means so that you can roll out these programs. Um, and that's where we see the most movement. And it's
Good.
uh, maybe taking a slight other aspect here. It's like
Yeah.
we used to come from, initially we were very much data focused, and data was important, but it was often okay, the chief data officer that helped the HR
Yeah.
department.
Yeah.
AI comes from the top, like it's C-level CEO basically saying, okay, we need to make sure that everyone, all our employees have the skill. And this empowers these HR departments so
Yeah.
much in doing this. And frankly, then it's actually a lot of fun to work with them, because they're like the HR brand, they're passionate about, like they don't take the job if they don't are not interested in AI. So like they're passionate about it. They are
Yeah.
very empowered, which like I've never worked in an HR department, but like based on what I've seen in the past years, like that goes a little bit with ups and downs, like
Uh-huh.
how much they're allowed to do. And now they're
Yeah.
really empowered. Like they basically got a mandate from the highest person in the organization.
Mm.
And then you see things move forward very quickly. Like we're deploying things in matters of weeks rather than matter of
Wow.
months.
Wow. That's amazing. And when you, I mean, and that's a fascinating concept, the business partner for AI, basically. Do you see in those roles more like traditional HR people, or
Mhm.
is this someone who is coming to HR from a more tech background? What kind of skill sets do you see in those roles?
Yeah, so they typically don't have a tech background, but they are um, naturally curious in tech.
Mm.
So it's typically the person that has been reading over the weekend and in the evenings out of interest, like that was already reading 3 years ago
Yeah.
about AI
Yeah.
and what's happening, and
Yeah.
playing a
Yeah.
little bit
Yeah.
with ChatGPT themselves and seeing like, okay, how can this help me? Um, and then the second thing is that they often have in they come from the larger L&D organization
Mm.
within HR. So that's what I've typically seen. So not necessarily pure tech player, but very tech native.
Yeah. Amazing. And when it comes to particularly those roles and the task, which is quite big, that those roles have, how do you from Datacamp support particularly these roles? And looking into this from two perspectives, how do you support that person being the most ready to do that job,
Hmm.
and then helping this person with the actual job?
Yep. So there are two components there. So the first component is um, uh, they have a lofty objective. We need to make this company AI native. Now
Yeah, yeah,
that then
yeah.
basically
What does that mean?
starts. Yes. What does that mean? What does that? So what does that mean from a learning objective
Yeah.
perspective? What are the different learning objectives? Oh, there are different departments in the organization, and they have access to different types of tools. And what AI native means for a software engineer is very different than somebody like who works in the supply chain department.
Yep.
So
Yep.
so that whole process of trying to understand, like, okay, who needs to be literate, who needs to be an expert, like we help with that, and we have then learning
Mm.
objectives, and we map that to
Different roles.
the different roles and like what we have on the platform. And
Yeah,
then the
yeah.
second thing that we help with a lot is the actual program design.
Hmm.
Um, so um, I think where we are unique is, well, all of a sudden you need to roll this out to thousands of people, and you need to roll it out fast. You can't do that with a 5 people consultancy shop. Like, you need to have the infrastructure, you need to
Yeah.
have, yeah, you need to have the infrastructure, you need to have the platform, you need to start doing blended learning programs, you need to be able to track your ROI. And so
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the Datacamp platform, we have all of that. And then
Mm.
we combine that with what we call professional services. So
Okay.
we can support people with customized materials, live
Is-
trainings, and so on if they're needed. And there's a big need for that as well. Like, you're getting executives to do self-paced learning is not the easiest thing. Sometimes it's just easier to put them half a day in a room together.
Yes. Yes.
Um, uh, customization is really important by role, but
Yeah.
also, well, different companies have different concepts around AI governance, data
Yeah.
governance, and
Yeah.
you need to
Yeah.
adjust that materials. But then you also need to still be able to roll it out to thousands of people. And so that's where a platform like Datacamp very much comes into play, because we're one of those unique players that has and the data and AI expertise, and the
Yeah.
scalability, and the customization that we can offer.
That's amazing. And do you have specific tools that you focus on? Are you saying, like, making it up now? Yes, we help you with Copilot, but we can't help you with Gemini. Or
Yeah.
is it like, regardless which tool, even if it's a self, they bring their own LLM or whatever,
Yeah.
is this independent of what kind of AI tool and model
Yeah.
company is using, or is it specific?
So so it's both. So we have both
Mm.
independent as tool specific courses, and we cover pretty much all the tools. Now, um, why, like, I don't really like the answer. Like, it depends, or we do it both. But why is it why is it a good answer in this case? Well, if you need to write a prompt in Copilot, or you need to write a
Yeah.
prompt in Gemini, or you need
Yeah.
to write it in Claude from Anthropic,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
not, like, the core principle is the same.
Mm-hmm.
So you can either say, like, we teach the core principle, which we do, or
Mm-hmm.
you can say, like, we teach the core principle, but within the tool of your choice,
Mm-hmm.
which we also
Mm-hmm.
do.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask you, Martin, because I'm curious now. Which which is the tool that you see the most companies using? Is it Copilot? Is it Gemini? Is it Claude? Is it something else? What do
Yeah,
you see most?
we see. Um, I think it's a tie between an internal own tool
Ah,
and open AI. Now, the the
OpenAI. Wow.
the,
Okay.
but
Interesting.
the thing is, the internal tool is often some variant of OpenAI, because the internal tool is something that Microsoft brought in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
lots
Okay.
of these organizations are on the Microsoft stack. Microsoft's like, hey, we can build your own LLM, but that own
Yeah.
LLM is basically some version of the OpenAI LLM. We actually see also a couple of clients who provide multiple models to
Wow.
their employee force.
Wow. Interesting. I mean, and then they leave it up to the employee which one to use. Or are they saying, for this use case it's model A, for that use case you go with model
Well,
B?
yeah,
Or
they leave it to the employee. Now,
yeah,
um,
estimating.
the thing is, like, if you, for example, the one that's in Copilot is then the one that's most used, because that's the one that most people have access to.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So, like, that's when where, like, that push comes in. But so I would say, like, okay, Copilot's like an example, and we see that a lot.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Now looking forward, we have talked a year ago, we are talking now, and when you look into 2026, what would you say is the trajectory? Is it we are continuing on that path, or do you see like big changes coming up on how AI will be used and what kind of trainings are needed?
Mhm.
How do you see 2026 coming in?
Yeah. So I see a lot of similarities with, like, the second part of 2025, which goes
Hmm.
back to an earlier answer on. I see. I think there's going to be even more of a focus on helping people acquire practical skills, really showing people, walking them through examples, like, okay, how can you use this now in your day to
Yeah.
day? Like
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
let's take a use case and let's together build an AI workflow around that
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
whatever the tool is that you want to use. Like if you use Copilot internally, we'll build it in Copilot. If you use NA10, we build it in NA10, and so on. And I think that's gonna be even more the case in 2020, 2026. I think in another topic, it's already starting to happen, but I think there's going to be also quite a lot of attention to everything that has to do with AI governance. If you're based in
Mm-hmm.
Europe, the EU AI Act, like that's going to be and remain a
Yeah.
topic.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
part
Yeah.
because Europe creates a lot of unclarity around that,
Yes.
which is good for my business, but you can also wonder, like, okay, why? Like a little bit of clarity would be helpful.
Indeed. Indeed. And Marty, let me ask. You basically talk about practical use cases that you will help. How how far is Datacamp going? Right, there is like that thin line to say, like, what, we help you with building your applied AI use case as part of the training, applied learning. Um, but there's a very thin line for basically the next step, and say, what, we help you build your agent workforce.
Yeah. Yeah, so we do not want to become a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go into organizations and say, like, okay, these are AI agents you want, and we're going to build them for you. In part because that would be a failure on our side, because we actually believe that almost everyone can acquire the skills themselves to do this, or to do this to
And
some degree. So we're really focused on that. So we draw the line at, we can make customized courses using your data,
is
using
it?
your tools, and help
Mm-hmm.
people to do that, and build even like do a code along or something like that, where we
Yeah,
where we
yeah, yeah,
work
yeah,
out an actual use case.
yeah.
um, but we don't come in and do it ourselves.
Mm.
Or like if we in the course, the idea is, like, in the course, to stick to the AI agent topic, in the course, like, you acquire the skills to build your first one, and then you
Yeah.
go out and you build the next 9 ones yourself.
Mm. That's pretty amazing. I mean, who would have thought a year ago that we talk about that?
True. Yes. Lots has happened.
Lots has happened, and I would like to look with you even further in the future, Martin.
Sure.
We have already talked so much. I have to be really careful that I'm not taking too much time from you. But one last question: when looking into the future, let's say 3 years from now,
Mhm.
where will AI be? What will it mean for Datacamp? What will it mean for your clients? And maybe even further, what will it mean for humans?
Yep. So a lot of big questions, and I think the honest answer is nobody knows. So that's that's a big caveat. So um, maybe well, let me say a couple of points on that, not necessarily connected. So I'm getting more and more convinced that we're moving towards a world where a part of your role will be to manage AI agents.
Mm-hmm,
You're going
mm-hmm.
to have AI agents that you will put to work
That work for you.
on your
Mm.
day-to-day tasks, on your weekly goals, monthly goals, and well, sometimes, like today, you're either doing that yourself manually, or you're interacting with colleagues. Like your job becomes managing AI agents
Yeah,
in part or in full.
yeah,
Um, you can say, I work in and AI agents is this big word, but let's say, like, you're an HR manager and you're responsible for payroll, and you need to look
yeah,
at compensation.
yeah,
You come, like, in the morning, you come in, they tell you, okay, we need to look at the compensation of our entire software engineering department. You go to your AI compensation agent and you say, okay, this is the task, this is the
yeah,
data. Please
yeah,
go out and look for benchmarks, and will ping me when you're done. I
yeah,
put
yeah.
that agent to work. I have a second task, like, I don't know what it is, like new legislation on
Mm-hmm.
payroll. Okay, I say, don't fully understand that. I get my AI legislative agent. I put that one on work. Oh,
Yeah.
My first one is ready. Let me have a look. So
Mm.
so you're constantly getting AI agents to work to multiply yourself, and I think more and more that we're moving towards a world that looks like that. Um, in terms of like what it means for humanity, like I'm not really I'm not a Doctor Doom on that. So like I just the way I just described it, like it's just a role description change.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the way that you describe a role, like all of a sudden managing AIs becomes a bullet point in your role description. That's a big
Like writing
change.
an email, 20 years
Like
ago.
writing email. Yeah, it's one of my favorite examples when I go out and speak to executives. It's like if you interview somebody today, you're not asking them, do you know how to use Google or do you know how to
Yeah, but
write an email? You see, you just assume people know how to do that. And so I think that's you'll see the same thing with AI agents. And then maybe on the other thing on humanity that I think is worth saying is I also don't buy the young people will no longer have a job or like it's getting really challenging. I actually have the
Mm.
opposite view
Mm.
because all the young people,
Yeah.
they are AI native. If
Yeah.
you speak to a teenager today, they use ChatGPT way better than any one of my peers. If you
And in
look at
use cases where they potentially shouldn't.
yes, well, yeah, even. But I used the internet also in use cases I probably shouldn't have like 15 or 20 years ago.
Yes.
And if you look at the university students and the way that they learn to work with AI in a very native way. So when they come into the job force, like you don't have the reskilling and the upskilling problem with them. You don't need to force a new technology on them. It's going to become native to those folks, and that's going to be so productive and effective. So I'm not really buying the there's no room for junior roles. I'm like, no, these junior people, they're basically going to be native in these tools, and it actually makes them a lot more dangerous than people think for their own job.
Interesting. But what will that mean then, Marty, for Datacamp? Will you have a job if everyone is already coming prepared?
Yeah, so I think we do maybe, well, just if you look at general history, like people have, like we went through many very big technology shifts, and education has been there since since Greek was in 1000 before Christ, a big
That's
country.
true.
So education is always going to be there, but it's going to look
Yeah.
different. And
Mhm.
I think education, I think Datacamp will look very different 5 years from now than it looks today, but in an exciting way because we can use AI technology to create those personalized adaptive learning experiences. And
Yeah.
that's eventually what we want to do. We want to build technology so that people can learn in the most effective
Yeah. Yeah.
way for them in the most fun way. And like this technology allows us to do that. That's what makes it exciting. So yes, we will still be there, but we don't know how it will look.
That is very exciting, Marty. And I think these are fantastic words to end our conversation. It has been a blast. It has been a massive, interesting conversation, Martin. Again, I thank you so much for your time. There's so much in here. I'm really looking forward to editing it and to share it then with the audience. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Volker, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Bye, Martin.
Goodbye.